4:10 local time. At 50,000 feet above the Arabian Sea, the B-2 Spirit slides through the frigid darkness like a silent, predatory shadow. Inside, the only sound is the rhythmic mechanical hiss of the pilot's oxygen mask, the steady heartbeat of a ghost. The air within the cockpit is thin and chilled, illuminated only by the faint crimson glow of the multifunction displays. Below, the jagged coastline of Hormozgan is fast approaching, but on the ground, the Iranian radar screens show a perfect, undisturbed void. The B-2 isn't just a stealth bomber. It is a moving black hole in the electromagnetic spectrum, a calculated absence of data that swallows radar waves and returns nothing but silence. This flight isn't a routine show of force. It is the clinical execution of a strategic sentence for the gamble Tehran took at 2:15. Tucked within the Ghost's cavernous weapons bay, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator sits in weight a 14-ton iron spear forged for the sole purpose of reaching the unreachable. Tehran is still celebrating a collision that never happened. They don't know that America's answer is already directly above them, and it weighs exactly 14 tons. The border of Iranian airspace is not a physical wall, but a dense, invisible thicket of high-frequency radiation. On the B-2's tactical displays, the coastal defenses, the Russian-made S-400 PMU-2 and the domestic Bavar-373 are fully active, their search radars screaming into the darkness, desperately hunting for a target that refuses to exist. This is the opening move of a high-stakes electronic duel, where the mathematics of invisibility dictates who lives and who vanishes. This invisibility is the ultimate expression of physics over raw power. The B-2's flying wing design is a geometric masterpiece that eliminates the vertical stabilizers, the very components that usually act as massive radar reflectors. Every square inch of the airframe is treated with radar-absorbent material RAM, a sophisticated coating that doesn't just block radar waves but traps them, converting their electromagnetic energy into microscopic amounts of heat. While the S-400 arrays scan the skies with enough power to light up a city, the B-2 remains a ghost in the machine. Inside the cockpit, the duel is visualized on the threat identification display. The pilot monitors the petals overlapping blossoms of color that represent the lethal detection ranges of enemy radar sites. By adjusting the aircraft's heading by just a fraction of a degree, the crew slips through the microscopic gaps where the radar beams failed to find a return. To support this, the B-2's own AN/APQ-181 radar operates on the principle of low probability of intercept, LPI. It is a whisper in a room full of shouters, seeing everything, yet remaining unheard by the enemy's passive sensors. As they cross the coastline, the pilot feels the immense weight of the mission. Beneath them lies billions of dollars of integrated air defense networks, the pride of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Yet, despite the technical sophistication of the East, they remain blind to the phantom above. To the pilot, it feels like walking through a high-security minefield wearing shoes made of nothingness. Every heartbeat is a calculation. Every mile is a silent victory of American engineering over the most advanced sensors the world can produce. The tension of the infiltration is suddenly broken by a burst of encrypted data. The SATCOM link flashes green, delivering a command from the hardened bunkers of CENTCOM with absolute finality. Ghost 1-1. This is Sentinel. Targets validated. Weapon release authorized. The pilot's hand, encased in a fire-resistant flight glove, moves to the master arm switch, a motion practiced 10,000 times in simulators, but carrying an entirely different weight tonight. As the finger rests on the trigger, the cold logic of the machine meets the mounting heat of human justice. The Ghost is no longer just a silent observer. The shield has officially become the sword. As the B-2 Spirit glides silently over the jagged peaks of the Zagros Mountains, the mission's objective finally comes into sharp focus. Below the desolate, sun-scorched terrain lies Iran's ultimate strategic insurance policy, the missile cities. These are not merely bunkers. They are massive, hardened subterranean complexes carved directly into the ancient granite, designed to be the birthplace and the shield of Tehran's long-range ambitions. To the Iranian leadership, these facilities represent an impenetrable fortress. The architecture of the Shahrud and Kermanshah complexes is a study in defensive engineering, featuring launch halls buried under 60 meters of solid granite and reinforced by meters of high-density steel fiber concrete. The entrances are guarded by blast-proof steel doors, each weighing dozens of tons, designed to survive the overpressure of a direct conventional strike. For 20 years, Tehran has operated under the assumption that geology is an eternal shield, that the weight of a mountain is a barrier no American weapon could ever hope to breach. But our perspective exposes a fatal flaw in this logic. In modern warfare, no fortress is deeper than the reach of physics. While Iran spent 20 years and billions of rials digging into the earth, the Pentagon spent that same time perfecting the science of getting through it. To the B-2's targeting computers, 60 meters of solid granite isn't an impassable barrier. It's just a single data point, a depth variable to be neutralized by the crushing math of terminal velocity. There is a profound, dark irony in the engineering of the Zagros complexes. By concentrating their most lethal assets into fixed, underground nodes, the Iranian military has effectively traded mobility for a false sense of security. They built these cities to hide their ambitions from the world, believing that depth equaled safety. In reality, they have inadvertently constructed the world's sturdiest stone coffin sealed by the very mountains they thought would protect them. The ghost is now hovering over the tomb, and the verdict of gravity is about to be delivered. 5:22 local time. The silent infiltration ends, and the clinical execution begins. Deep within the belly of the B-2 Spirit, the cavernous weapons bay doors cycle open with a sharp, pressurized hiss that defies the thin air of the stratosphere. For a brief moment, the most sophisticated stealth platform in the world sacrifices its perfect aerodynamic seal to reveal its deadly cargo, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. As the heavy-duty shackles release, the 30,000-pound beast of hardened steel commits to the abyss. The effect on the aircraft is instantaneous. The B-2 shudders as it is suddenly relieved of 14 tons of dead weight. The flight control computers work at microsecond speeds to counteract the violent upward surge in the center of gravity. For the pilot, it's a visceral sensation, the feeling of a massive burden finally being cast off. The plane wants to leap toward the stars, but the mission remains level. The ghost has delivered its verdict. Now, the relentless math of gravity takes over. The MOP is not a traditional bomb, it is a kinetic spear. As it tumbles into the dark, 4 grid-like fins at the rear snap open, biting into the near vacuum to stabilize the 20-foot cylinder. These fins are slaves to a GPS guidance system that performs calculations with millimeter precision, correcting the descent trajectory to ensure the weapon strikes the granite at a perfect 90-degree angle. Every second of freefall converts potential energy into a terrifying amount of kinetic force. By the time it nears the peaks of the Zagros, the GBU-57 is no longer just falling, it is screaming toward the coordinates provided by our intelligence at terminal velocity. To an observer on the surface, there is no dramatic fireball upon impact. There is only a dull, bone-shaking metallic thud that vibrates through the mountain's tectonic roots. This is where the physics of Retribution truly begins. The nose of the MOP, forged from a specialized ultra-dense nickel-steel alloy, is designed to withstand the unimaginable heat and pressure of a high-speed collision with solid rock. It doesn't explode on contact, it bores. The 4-ton weapon liquefies the granite like a hot drill through butter, its massive weight and velocity weaponizing the mountain's own density against itself. It tunnels deeper and deeper, carving a path through 60 meters of earth that Tehran thought was an ultimate shield. The genius of this destruction lies in the Hard Target Smart Fuse, HTSF. As the GBU-57 tunnels through the rock, its onboard sensors measure the deceleration and density shifts every time it hits a void, a hallway, a command center, or a missile bay. The fuse doesn't just detonate, it discriminates, it counts. Floor 1, Floor 2, Floor 3. Once the weapon reaches the hollow heart of the missile city, the fuse triggers the 2,400 kilograms of high-explosive core. The resulting detonation occurs in a sealed, subterranean vacuum, turning the Iranian fortress into a superheated pressure cooker. The granite that was meant to protect the missiles now acts as a containment chamber, amplifying the shockwave until the internal structures and the ambitions they held are atomized. The arithmetic of the night is solved. The verdict of gravity has reached the bottom floor. The B-2 Spirit banks into a wide, sweeping turn, its delivery complete, but its sensor suite remains slave to the coordinates below. High above the Zagros peaks, the pilot cycles the multifunction display to the long-range infrared FLIR aperture. The screen, a monochrome world of thermal shadows, suddenly saturates with a violent energy spike. From the hidden ventilation shafts and reinforced exhaust ports of the missile city, incandescent geysers of white-hot gas begin to erupt. On the thermal display, it looks like the mountain itself is breathing a rhythmic, violent exhalation of hellfire. These are not just flames. This is the pressurized atmosphere of the fortress being vomited out under hundreds of thousands of pounds of per square inch pressure. Inside the tunnels, the calculus of destruction is absolute. The primary detonation of the GBU-57 has triggered a cascading chain reaction. The high volatile liquid fuel tanks of the stored Khorramshahr 4 missiles have ruptured, turning the Leviathans into giant, subterranean firecrackers. Denied the open sky to dissipate the energy, the overpressure becomes a superheated hammer, pulverizing the very foundations meant to protect them. The missile city has become a sealed granite furnace, an oven where Tehran's strategic ambitions are being reduced to molecular ash. The pilot watches the screen for a heartbeat longer, tracking the secondary seismic signatures as the internal support pillars finally succumb to the heat. There is no cheering in the cockpit, no grandstanding. There is only the clinical satisfaction of a complex equation solved to the last decimal point. The silence is shattered by a single clip transmission over the encrypted SATCOM. Sentinel, Ghost 1-1, primary target neutralized, subterranean structural failure verified. Secondary detonations ongoing. Turning for the footprint, the Ghost slips back into the velvet void of the morning, leaving behind a mountain that has been hollowed out from the inside. The arithmetic of Retribution is complete. The board is reset. As the first light of dawn begins to bleed across the edge of the Indian Ocean, the B-2 Spirit is already 1,000 miles away, its jagged silhouette dissolving into the morning haze. Behind it, the fires in the Zagros Mountains will burn for days, but the strategic landscape has been permanently altered in a matter of hours. Tehran's long-held illusion that distance and depth could provide a sanctuary for aggression has been systematically dismantled by the very physics they tried to ignore. The message of the night is as cold as the vacuum of space. Our shield saved us. Our gravity erased you. By reaching for the footprint, Iran inadvertently triggered a lethal chain reaction. It proved that their deepest bunkers are not sanctuaries. They are merely physics problems to which we already have the destructive answer. Tehran spent decades digging into the earth with the delusional belief that out of sight meant out of reach. This morning, we sent 14 tons of steel to prove that distance is no longer a shield, and depth is merely a test of a drill bit's durability. A word of advice for the structural engineers at Shahrud. Next time you're commissioned to build a missile city, try using silk paper instead of reinforced concrete. At least then, it won't create so many jagged shards to lodge into your remaining missiles when we decide to drop by for another visit. If you want to track the next phase of Campaign Epic Fury and find out what happens to Iran's offshore assets next, hit the subscribe button. Goodbye.